Hey, what's going on, everyone? We are here at the Pima Air Space Museum here in Tucson, Arizona. Had some bad news today, so we thought we'd come and check out the Air and Space Museum. If you're following us on social media, you'll see a few months ago we had a hard drive failure. Tried to get that recovered, and well, that didn't go so well. So we got to find some more stuff to film. So we figured while we're on our winter trip that we would come over here to the Air and Space Museum and give you guys a tour. So let's go check it out. So a couple of fun facts here before we get started. If you're an RVer like Misty and I are, we don't have the 182 with us as we're out on our winter trip. They do have RV parking just on the other side of the visitor parking area and visitor center, so feel free to bring those big rigs in. Looked like a lot of space over there, and it's pet friendly, so if you have leashes on your pets, you can bring those guys in and have them walk around, so that's pretty cool. The museum itself is 7 hangars with space galleries and stuff like that, and over 80 acres of airplanes to go out and visit, so we'll go check that out now. As we enter the Air and Space Museum, we are greeted by a replica of the 1903 Wright Flyer. Hey, check it out. It's the tail gunner section from a B-52D Stratofortress. The B-52 has been in service since the 1950s and has had tail gunners on board from the A model through the H model. I was kind of hoping that we'd get to actually go up in the tail gunner turret, but apparently they have that closed. But that's pretty neat to see on one of these old B-52Ds, the tail gunner section here. It's pretty neat. Now these guys right here, these are some of my favorite. I love these little gyrocopters. It's kind of neat that they have this one in a military paint scheme of sorts, but I've always wanted to fly in one of these and get some experience. Just super cool to see one here on display, but in the military colors. It's pretty neat. An aircraft that needs no introduction, here's Blue Angel 6, is a Grumman F-11 Tiger. And sitting next to Blue Angel 6 is the U.S. Air Force F-4 Phantom. This particular F-4 Phantom is painted up in the U.S. Air Force Thunderbird livery as Thunderbird 7. The Air Force Thunderbirds flew the F-4 from 1969 until 1973. In the next section, we discover a tribute to women in aviation. Women have made significant contributions to aviation since the Wright brothers' first 12-second flight in 1903. Blanche Scott was the first woman in 1910 when the plane that she was allowed to taxi mysteriously became airborne. And then in 1911, Harriet became the first licensed woman pilot. In 1912, Harriet became the first woman to fly across the English Channel. In 1921, Bessie Coleman became the first African-American woman pilot. Because of the discrimination in the United States towards women as pilots and Bessie's race, Bessie moved to France and learned to fly at the most famous flight school in France, the École d'Aviation des Frères Coudron. Bessie returned to the United States later and pursued a barnstorming career until 1926. Fast forward into World War II now. Most women who learned to fly during the Great War earned their wings through instruction by attending the CAA's Civil Pilot Training Program. More than 935 women gained their licenses in 1941, with 43 serving as CAA qualified instructors. The Women's Auxiliary Ferry Squadron, founded by Nancy Harkness Love, and the Women's Flying Training Detachment, founded by Jacqueline Cochran, were fused together by President Roosevelt to become the Women's Air Force Service Pilots, or WASP. The new organization was a vital part of the history of women in military aviation. Unfortunately, the WASPs were not recognized as military personnel until the Senate passed a resolution in November of 1977, and it was signed into law by President Carter. Today, women pilots fly for the airlines, fly in the military, and in space, fly air races, command helicopter mercy flights, haul freight, stock high mountain lakes with fish, patrol our petroleum pipelines, and teach students to fly, maintain jet engines, and transport corporate officers. The accomplishments of women in aviation is long and distinctive, but just as their male counterparts and colleagues, they became pilots for many of the same reasons. First, they love flying and they love using their talents and being respected for them. And mostly, they love the feeling of belonging to this strong family called aviation. I get so involved in these air museums and whatnot that a lot of times I forget to look up, so you guys try to remind me, and we'll see if we can account for the aircraft that are up there too, because there's some really good ones. Getting into some more vintage aircraft over in this hangar before we head outside and check out the aircraft on display out there. One of my favorite helicopters here is the old OH-58 Kiowa. During some of my years in Iraq and Afghanistan, this was one of our close air support platforms that we would call in and utilize with our JTACs and stuff like that. And just a great platform. Surprisingly, that the Army actually retired them. I know that they're looking for something else to replace it, but it was such a great platform back in its day. Pretty impressive having an on-display SR-71 Blackbird. Very, very cool. The SR-71 Blackbird was developed by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works team. The original Blackbird was designated the A-12 and made its first flight on April 30th, 1962. The single-seat A-12 soon evolved into the larger SR-71, which added a second seat for a reconnaissance systems officer and carried more fuel than the A-12. The SR-71's first flight was on December 22nd, 1964. Breaking records nearly every time it flew, the Blackbird achieved a sustained speed above Mach 3 at an astounding altitude of 78,000 feet. The challenges kept coming though. Zipping across the sky at 3,000 feet per second, the rules of navigation needed to be rewritten. Visual references for conventional flying, highways, rivers, and metropolitan areas were all rendered obsolete, giving way to mountain ranges, coastlines, and larger bodies of water. The records set are many. The Blackbird was and remains the world's fastest and highest flying manned aircraft. On its retirement flight from Los Angeles to Washington in 1990 to its final resting place in the Smithsonian Air and Space Collection, the plane flew coast to coast in just 67 minutes. Most importantly, the aircraft delivered on its strategic responsibilities, providing the United States detailed mission-critical reconnaissance for more than 2 decades. Only a select few know the true extent of the role of the Blackbird's intelligence played during the Cold War, but its legacy as a game-changer will be admired for generations to come. Finishing up Hangar 1, we admired the J-4 Widgeon and this interesting but failed Columbia XJL. Oh, check this out. Coming into view, here is a U.S. Navy PBM Mariner, just an absolute behemoth. Look at how it dwarfs the little Osprey II sitting next to her. Just an absolute beauty. Continue, here's the B-18 Bolo, and there's the S-3 Viking. Needing no introduction, here we see the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thuderbolt II, or affectionately known as the Warthog. She is the mother of modern-day close air support. A favorite of Allied ground troops across the globe, she entered service in 1976 and met its first combat missions during the First Gulf War in 1991. The A-10 has been a part of every major engagement since then. The aircraft's retirement was debated in 2010, and after several years of arguments at the Pentagon, it was finally determined in 2017 that the U.S. Air Force would keep this fighter flying and in service indefinitely into the future. Just a very impressive display of the A-10 Warthog behind us here. What we just saw was some of the fighter squadrons in that area behind me that we just walked through, the different units that supported us in OEF, which is Operation Enduring Freedom, where I spent quite a few years in Afghanistan myself. And so I kind of hold the A-10. It's kind of a near and dear airplane to me. Being on the ground, and those guys were always in the air whenever we needed them, and just an impressive airplane that has my utmost respect, you know, for a fighter aircraft and close air support platform. We just finished up Hangar 1 right next door, and now we're going to check out Hangar 3. They got a B-24 over here and some signs painted on the floor of where a B-29 is located at, so we're going to go try to find that now too. Now, I told you guys got to remind me to look up. Right behind me and up above my head, where Misty was reading, is an old German Focke-Wulf. How cool is that? Behind me here is the P-39 Airacobra. This one's kind of neat to see on display here because the CAF in San Marcos, back at home in Texas, they actually have a flying Airacobra. Not too many more of these around, and so this one's a really cool find. Another favorite behind me here is the old B-25 Liberator. Very, very impressive bird from World War II. Love finding all of these aircraft here at the Pima Air Space Museum, and there's so much more to show you guys. We did Hangar 1, Hangar 3, we're now at Hangar 5, we've got Hangar 4, and then we have the entire outside grounds to try to take a walk through and just see as much as we can before it's time to go. The PBY Catalina was originally developed by the U.S. Navy to be a patrol bomber. Now, the remaining Catalinas in service today are firebombing aircraft combating forest fires. So over here in Hangar 4, one of my favorite airplanes from World War II, aside from the B-17, is the B-29 Super Fortress sitting back here. Definitely an impressive display that I can't wait to show you guys around. Let's go check it out. The B-29 was designed as what the Army Air Forces called a hemisphere defense weapon. The 1940 specifications called for an aircraft capable of carrying 20,000 pounds of bombs for over 5,000 miles at speeds of over 400 miles an hour. While it did not meet all of these goals, the B-29 still carried more bombs higher, farther, and faster than any other bomber of World War II. Over 3,000 Super Fortresses were built, and many continue to serve the U.S. Air Force into the early 1950s. Pretty impressive exterior tour. We're going to take a look up underneath here where they have the bomb bay doors open, and you can see just how many they can actually carry up in here, which is quite a big payload. An impressive Super Fortress sentimental journey rolled off the Wichita, Kansas assembly line in 1945 and was deployed to Guam conducting 31 combat missions. She is the sister ship to the B-29 named Doc. Coming into focus is the iconic North American P-51D Mustang. This exhibit is a replica of Lewis E. Curds' Mustang, Bad Angel. Curds, a decorated fighter pilot in the war, was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross twice as well as a Purple Heart. His notoriety, though, comes from shooting down an American C-47 transport and, long story short, ended up marrying one of the nurses on board. So we're starting our walk on the outside portion of this tour. See what all we can find. We're headed over to the NASA aircraft and space aircraft place, I guess now. Go check that out. See what we can find. A lot of aircraft in disarray sitting back here, but quite the collection though. So we thought there'd be a few more aircraft on display, or more rockets, or something, you know, to do with NASA for being an Air and Space Museum. But looks like the only things that we're able to find out here on the grounds and in the hangars are these three aircraft that are on display out here. So we'll go check them out. Super Guppy B-377SG Super Guppy Cargo Transport. And behind us over here is one of the weightless wonders, otherwise known as the old vomit comets, where they would simulate weightlessness for the would-be astronauts. And right here painted on the nose is how they would simulate weightlessness, starting at 26,000 feet and 510 knots of true airspeed, power reduced until thrust equals drag, then they'd push over to 0G, zero gravity of 30 seconds of weightlessness at 34,000 feet and 325 knots. Then they would pitch down and hold zero gravity to a 45-degree dive and do a 2G pullout. All right, finally, for the Air and Space Museum, we're actually going to go check out the space side of it now that we finally found where that building's at. So this ought to be pretty interesting. This is one of Misty's favorite things to see, is all the stuff regarding space flight and astronauts and stuff like that. So this will be really cool for her. Pretty neat. Right behind us there is one of the Apollo command modules that Misty's going up to check out now. Very, very cool to see that one here on display at the Pima Air and Space Museum.
Houston, we have a problem.
From thermal garments to packaged space M&Ms, lots of little paraphernalia in this cabinet here, along with some Pepsi cans and a Coca-Cola can for the astronauts to enjoy. And here we see a 1955 MB-3 rocket assembly, which was a part of the old LR-79 series. Here suspended up above is the MQ-1B Predator, built by General Atomics. It was conceived in the late 1990s and mainly used by the U.S. Air Force and the CIA for aerial reconnaissance and forward observation roles. The U.S. Air Force retired the Predator in 2018 and replaced it with the RQ-9 Reaper. And in the final exhibits of drones that we got to see are examples of the Tiger Shark and the RQ-1 Shadow. I'd have to say the most eye-catching piece of history that got our attention here at Pima was the guidance and navigation simulator for the Space Shuttle depicted here. This piece of kit was featured in the movie Moonfall. probably the last exhibit we're going to check out today is going to be the Memorial Museum of the 390th Bomber Group, and they claim to be the home of the B-17. So we're going to go check this out, and that'll probably do it for today. Get back and head back over to our campground, but we wanted to put something together to share with you guys, and let's go inside and see what's going on here. So we just heard from one of the curators here at this museum that this museum is obviously inside the Pima Air and Space Museum, but this is a private museum here from the surviving members of the 390th Bomber Group from World War II, and they decided that they wanted to get together and preserve a B-17, and they curated this specific museum here to do just that. So very, very cool. This museum kind of gives you a little bit of a walk in their shoes. There's numbers on the floor down here for different numbered stations to basically kind of get an idea of what it was like to be one of these young men back in World War II.
She said the heart's a game that we don't play, so I'll be alone. Yeah, I'll be alone. I'm staring at the other side. I'm too scared to decide. I'm staring at the other side, and I'm hoping it's different this time.
In the spring of 1943, the 390th Bomb Group was activated in Blythe, California with 4 squadrons. In July, the group's air and ground troops were assigned to the 8th Air Force and dispatched to Suffolk, England for missions over Europe. Based in Parham, the 390th Bombardment Group flew 301 combat missions against German military targets and had a bombing accuracy that at times was the best in the entire 8th Air Force. This restored Flying Fortress serial number 44858828 is a surviving treasure of World War II that was based in England from 1943 till 1945. In 1945, she was transferred to the U.S. Coast Guard for long-range patrol and air-sea rescue duties. Her final service as an aerial firefighter were with Globe Aviation of Mesa, Arizona from 1978 to 1980. Just a freaking excellent display of this B-17 here behind me. One of the most iconic aircraft in all of World War II, made thousands and thousands of bombing missions. Plenty of U.S. airmen died in this aircraft, you know, flying over Germany and whatnot. And just amazing to be able to see one in such a preserved and restored condition as this one is here. So, very, very cool.
I'm staring at the other side, but I'm too scared to decide. I'm staring at the other side, and I'm hoping